Good evening.
Hello, welcome.
Good evening.
I don't know what it's like, but it's sunny here today. Makes all the difference when the sunshine comes. What's it like in Romania?
Quite sunny here too.
Oh, okay.
Even though it's a bit cold, but it's sunny. I prefer it that way.
That's good. That's good. In total, we were expecting 17. So I think there are just two more people that we're waiting for. We wait a minute or two, and then I think we should begin whatever the session. I'm quite keen to limit the length of the evenings because already everyone has had a very tiring day in school, and it's also not nice to go on a long time into the evening. Did you all receive a message from me about the LMS system? Is there anyone here who didn't receive the message?
Oh, I did. I received it, and I'm trying to log in. I believe I have to create an account.
Yes, you have to create a password. I made the account for you.
You made the account for me?
I made the account for you. You and Karina already, for some reason, had an account.
I told you we already worked with
so you have to go then and change your password. And if you get stuck, please get back to me because I can update your password and I can find your username.
I don't know. How do we enter with our username is our email? Do you know?
I don't know. I would have to look up. Alexa, I'll look up your details later.
Okay.
Rather than do it now.
Sure.
But it would be really good if everybody could check they can get into the system by tomorrow, because tomorrow we're going to introduce I'm going to introduce the LMS system to you, and I'm going to let you play. That's the most important thing of all, is to have some fun and for you to see how easy it is to create a learning space. And then we'll probably talk about what makes the best type of learning space in terms of technology. So we'll probably look at this. I've been using Moodle for about 25 years. I was the first in my university to use it. So I was the guinea pig. So I made all the mistakes you can make. So I promise to make sure that nobody makes mistakes. And in fact, tonight I will back up what is already there. When you go in, you will find one or two things there. There's a quiz of one question for you to take. There are some graphics, and there's no content yet. There are some images. There's a video for you to watch, and so on. So there are one or two things for you to explore. And this was me and Zara starting to play with the LMS about a week ago. Zara's our Turkish partner. And for those of you who don't know or haven't met her, she's in the middle of the earthquake zone. We talked with her last night. And so I've really taken over the lead on this, but she's already been trained and her colleagues already been trained by me to use the LMS. And once they get reliable internet back, I'm sure they will be working inside the LMS. But it's extraordinary circumstances, the fact that they've survived the earthquake. And last night there was another earthquake while we were online, just for those of you who were not with us last night. So I think we should start. Rather than going through lengthy introductions, I think we should just get underway. My name, I didn't introduce myself last night. My name is Carl Donnert. I was a high school teacher for 20 years, teaching geography. I then worked in the university for 20 years, researching and studying and teaching geography, and also training teachers. So part of my work has always been connected with teachers. I've been working in Romania for more than 25 years. I was looking it up, and I've been working, so I know the Romanian. I've been in Romania many times. I've also worked in other European countries. So I lived and worked for 4 years in Austria, in one of the universities. So I've got quite a broad expertise and experience. My favorite subject in university, when I studied, which was a long time ago, was climate change. So it's funny, I come back to the beginning where I started more than about 50 years ago, when I was a student in the university. So I go right back to the beginning of climate change, and I'm really delighted that climate change has become, is recognized as being important, something we need to know about, and something we need to teach, and something we need to study. And the connection with the other topic in the project is the use of GIS, Geographic Information Systems. And I've always been fascinated by the use of technology in education, and it was therefore a natural movement by me, evolution, when I was a school teacher more than years ago, to start to integrate the use of technology in my classes. And I saw the real benefits of the students when they were able to see things which they couldn't otherwise see. In those days, we didn't have all the satellite images that we have today, and the systems
Recording in progress.
And the technology systems that we used in those days were really very primitive. But I'll tell you more about that later on. The purpose of this evening is to do the following, is to hear from you, and we're going to hear some presentations. The partners will present the results of the focus groups, and we ask the partners, especially the school partners, to identify what are the main needs of the teachers that they're working with, what are your needs, and what are your concerns, what are your worries about teaching climate and using GIS. And what we'd like to hear then is from you. So I'm going to shut up now and let our partners to present the focus groups, the results of the focus group that they included, that they've done in the last week. So who's going to go first? Is it going to be Romania or Latvia? I think it should be Latvia in alphabetical order. So I think Talis, we're down to you. I think you probably have a presentation. We asked you to create a presentation. So if it's possible, you can share your screen. Fantastic, thank you. Well, it's lovely to have somebody who's really dedicated to the project, so that's wonderful. So go ahead, please, Ivana.
Okay, I will do something like you, Carlo, did. Just shortly introduce with myself. So I was a teacher in Riga Secondary School before 20 more years, but after I decided to went in the business because I'm graduated the Riga Business School MBA program. So, and before 5 years, I got back, and my passion is mathematics. So this is only what I really love and work with students. So business is business, but the emotions and the feedback, what you get back from the students, you never can't buy by money. So this is very, very shortly about me. And this is a family tradition. Some of you are introduced by my mother, who is still working in the school. She's 90. So that is very, very shortly about me. About the project, Rudite are still, of course, in the project. And we will continue to work together and to get maximum best result with you. So, but today I would be prefer that Romania would start for the first due to our changes.
Okay, I think that's fair enough. As long as we don't fight over this, that's okay. So, Alexandra, will you do the first presentation?
I will share my screen.
Thank you.
So we did our focus groups, and we went, following your basic lines, let's say.
Just for the teachers to know, I only allowed 2 slides of information.
Yes, there are 2.
So we don't have death by PowerPoint. But I think it challenges you to get the information into the slides. Thank you.
Okay. Just a bit. So what you see here underlined is the big theme, let's say, and then what came our minds. So climate change versus curriculum, because this is what we will be discussing later on, Eva. So Krina, can you read, please? Krina?
Yes, yes, I try. I'm teaching in secondary school geography from 27 years. And this is the result of my predarea mea, my teaching.
Yes.
Climate change versus curriculum. Most disciplines do not have climate change specifically included in my curriculum. Geography, biology, exception, other science optionals, some economics discipline. Related, the water cycle in nature, global warming, the greenhouse effect of water values, strategies to prevent and ameliorative the negative effects of climate change, but also for the strategy to adapt to current requirements. Need and difficulties in teaching climate change. Logics, maps, ICT programs, special software, interactive whiteboard and printer. Knowledge, good training in this area, clear notion expertise, curriculum adaptation, curriculum current informative materials. Action, trips in nature, strategic actions, interventions, projects basis lesson. How to treat climate change. Using technology, video, maps, VR. Really based. Case studies, concrete examples, watching movies, summer school, current statistical data and graphics. Involvement of both student and teacher. Student training, research, practice, analysis, and interpretation, special guest, creative lessons, example of good practice, cross-curricular teaching.
Okay, and the second slide, Daniela would be helping me. Microphone, Daniela.
Okay. ICT in teaching climate change. ICT are absolute necessary in the thinking about climate change, challenge, time orientation, space localization, rationalization, and justification of certain action. The digital world, practicing different languages, cooperation, limits, software and database access, students lack of resource, ICT abilities.
Okay, and I will finish the last two infos. It's about necessary resources regarding GIS. We have a GIS use in the location of all sources of electricity production. Hydro power plants, thermal power plants, nuclear power plants, wind power, photovoltaic cell power parks. You know, I said something about this earlier yesterday. So GIS software, this where Krina informed us, ArcGIS, QGIS, and MapInfo. Helping using GIS peer-to-peer learning. I believe this is the most important because we learn from each other. Importance of teachers and experts forums. If we create the site, the LMS platform and everything, we need to have forum because people usually go there to get help from their peers. And then conferences and GIS events, which we also be having in our project. About the worries about teaching climate change, especially with GIS, is the complexity. The Romanian curricula is already too stuffed. I don't know about the rest of the European countries, but at least in Romania, the curricula is very heavy. People can be discouraged also by the scale of the problem and the lack of concrete solutions, which can lead to inaction and apathy, lack of expertise training in the field. Cross-curricular teaching. Fractional teaching only within certain disciplines that allow addressing such a subject, and only for a few hours, does not allow a true understanding of the causes that lead to these changes, and especially does not allow a deeper awareness on the part of the students, teachers, or parents on the effects of one's own actions. It could be introduced as an optional in schools. I have to present you something. For instance, in Romania, each discipline has their own curricula, and they usually do not interconnect, which is quite difficult. Also, as an advantage, we have the possibility to add optionals. Daniela, that spoke before, she told me that she has such a module, an optional, for students that study electronics, let's say. So she can introduce climate change in her module, which is something that our school can adapt because we are vet school. The worries, of course, continue with politics, because despite the fact that climate change is an important current topic, it may be too technical or too complex for many students or adults. There are also concerns about how teaching about climate change can be influenced by politics and ideological debates, which can be counterproductive to understanding climate change issues. So I try to summarize our colleagues' ideas. They had many ideas, so I tried to summarize them in these two slides. And unfortunately, Carl only allowed us 2 slides. Thank you.
Oh, I think you've done a great job there. Can I ask you to make sure that they're uploaded in the Google Drive under LTT1?
Okay.
Slides, then we can spend time to come back to it later, because you raised 1,000,001 things there.
I told you, my colleagues had
No,
plenty of
but
ideas.
It's really excellent, because these are some of the many challenges that you face. And in particular, for me, I note very strongly how stuffed the Romanian curriculum is, and that there are some solutions, but they may not lead to the best results. So I'm very aware of this, certainly in Romania, because as I said, I've worked in Romania for a long time. But I also know in your advantage is that you actually have some opportunities to get help, especially from Esri Romania. I know in the past they've been very supportive. I think now we get to when we get to the real start of the project, when we start to make things, I think it would be really good for you to establish those relationships with Esri Romania, and you'll be surprised the help you will get, because I think they'll be very interesting. But we'll talk about that later. Does anyone else have something they want to comment on, or any questions about the issues that are raised? How many teachers did you have in your focus group?
I have to admit there were over 10.
That's good. That's great, because it's very good to have a minimum of 4 or 5, but anything more is very good, because what you're doing, as we can see here already, is you're building your team of people.
Yes, I asked the colleagues from different areas, so we can have a clear overview of this.
And it's very interesting that you mentioned, for me, the cross-curricular challenge. On the one hand, you may feel it's watering it down, but on the other hand, you're engaging kids with different ideas and skills. So, for example, I know one school I used to work with, and they introduced climate change through art. And the art that the kids created was really beautiful. And they really understood a lot about climate change by drawing their imaginary worlds of the future, or their scenes, or their landscapes, or whatever. So, the thing is, you may not think it's relevant to GIS, but it can be relevant. Photography, for example, whereby you're looking at changes over time and so on. I also noted the fact that you talked about kids going outside into the surroundings, and that, I think, is a big opportunity. I think the tools that we have available to us today give us the opportunity to get kids to, what I used to say, to get their hands dirty, to go and touch the soil and to see the water, and to understand how the changes are affecting people. So I think that's very, very good, a very, very good summary. Does anyone want to ask a question? I don't know if Raphael has any comments he wants to make before we move on and we hear the second. He's coming here.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I have no special comments. I agree. I think it's very interesting,
and it's the same in schools around the world.
Yeah, it's quite similar in Spain or in France or in any other, or in Italy, any other countries we run or have previous projects. So it's very interesting, the topics and all.
So don't think you are special. It just means that you are facing the same challenges. What is interesting is that we have the opportunity through this project to actually be a little bit more innovative and do something about it.
Well, the point is how ministries of education are updating the curriculum. They are flexible, or they are, let's say, fast to adapt, or just the opposite. So the curriculums are the same like many years ago. So this is the challenge of the professor. You have the curriculum here, but you have your, let's say, your freedom, you have your students, you have your resources to do, you respect your national curriculum, but you implement new contents, new materials, new resources on a parallel way to the curriculum. And I think that's the point, and I think it's the same challenge everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the challenge is also, and the political worry, I think that's a really interesting comment, you know, because in some European countries, climate is still seen, especially the very fossil fuel linked countries, climate is still seen as a bad thing. You know, it's not something we can address because it will affect the way we live and our prosperity if we start to do things, and that still exists. Removing the politics and letting the kids make their own mind up is one of the strategies that we have to employ. And therefore, I like the idea that the use of data and information and so on, so that they can judge and see from their own perspective what the impact might be and how it will affect them and their lives. So for me, I think you've encompassed an awful lot of what I think to do over the next couple of years. I'm talking too much. Come on, someone else, help me out. Tell me what you think. What stands out from you from the presentation? Any of our teachers from Latvia? Is there something that really... Well, then we're moving to the presentation from Latvia if we don't get any. And Ali is here. That's lovely to see you, Ali. Good evening from Turkey. And so, there's Zara as well. No,
Yes.
Good evening, Carl. Good evening.
That's wonderful. Good to see you here. So have we got a focus group, at least some comments or some ideas from Latvia? Excellent. They've done more than 2 slides. Huh? they get 0 point. No, please don't worry. Just present and tell us what you came up with.
Ingu, un tevi nedzird. Mikrofonu.
Yeah, I understood. So thank you. Yeah, in our focus group was 6 teachers, and our discussion was very, very fruitful. On the moment we prepared the main thesis, how it could work across all our study courses. That means we placed it under our study courses. So at first, of course, lovely mathematics. So I will try this. Yes. So, and in our program in high school students, we have to do mathematical modeling work with specific data in advanced study course, mathematics 2. It's deeper course in the class 12, but as well in the class 11 and 10, and the students could do this job. And these data could be about climate. And there we could use linear regression equities and something more. And students finally should do also make predictions. So biology, high school students should do how certain environmental factors affect specific organisms, and determining the ecological balance in the Shelford diagram, as well as the effect of abiotic factors on living organisms. And of course, lovely geography. In this course, the impact of climate on population migration, the search for better living conditions as a result of various climate-induced disasters. And social sciences too. This course as well, it's continuing after graduating class 10 and 11. It's in class 12. And there is a topic of an environmental law and solving these issues in Latvia. This is quite important topic, how it could be solving. And of course, the climate change has an impact on the environment and is an important issue to address. So these are the main topics, and accordingly by this, of course, we should prepare what we need and how it could work. That's basically all.
Thank you very much. So as I put in the chat, a very different approach, which is very good. It deals with 4 potential student-centered projects, I think.
Yes.
The opportunity in the curriculum are very clearly identified. I think there are other opportunities, especially possibly in mathematics, but I like the idea of modeling and either examining models or creating models and simulations. I think that would be very simulating the results. Possibly you're looking at more senior students. And again, that's something we have to decide on. What are the age of the students we're going to try to work or to do things? And I think also similar perspectives. It appears that the curriculum of your countries are not really providing many opportunities to do anything in great depth. From my perspective. And so the result indicates that there is a need for teachers to try to identify time and opportunities. What about the similarities? Do you in Romania have something on environmental law, for example?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I know I can, for example, I know I can link you to a climate game that the kids can play, where they make decisions about what they will do if they were leading the country, and the game results in the climate scenario of the future. So there are quite a lot of interactive, let's say, interactive resources that are available that we could use to support this topic in terms of environmental law. And that for me is very interesting, because ultimately the kids are making decisions about their own lives. And while we present the data through GIS and can show what has happened, and they can study this, there is another side which leads to the behavior of the people and how they are influenced. One thing is certain: young people are very worried about climate. We saw this with the climate strikes and Greta Thunberg just before COVID, when hundreds of thousands of kids went out of school on Fridays. I don't know if it happened in your school, but certainly the 2 schools I'm connected with, the kids were out on strike every Friday. because of their dismay at the lack of action by the politicians in terms of trying to address climate. Was that the same in your schools? Did the kids leave the classroom and go on strike?
Honestly, we're not that strike people. I believe you know that. In Romania, we don't do that many strikes.
Okay.
But we managed to engage students in all sorts of activities, planting and everything. So we are more like do something, not to verbalize too much.
Okay, so do something local. And Gunnar, I'll ask you also to upload your presentation to the Google Drive under LTT1, so we can look at it and think about it and refer to it later.
Yeah, okay. And thanks to Thales, we have a very good system for doing, for sharing our ideas in online Excel sheets. So that is our advantage as well, maybe. But okay,
also,
we will do it.
Also, yes, we will try to share ideas and try to share resources. So, for example, in another project, as I said, we have just identified about 20 games that kids can play about climate change. I didn't play them, but they're all played on the internet or on the phone. And really, they can therefore motivate the kids to become interested. And I will share that with you later in the week. For example, the list of games that you can see. We've also we're also looking to create. I think one of the things you mentioned, Alex, was the need for data and local data, and that's where I think chatting to your Esri provider and get them to help you identify what information sources are available, especially locally around the school. And the same with your schooling, Gunnar. If you can identify data sources that relate to the challenges around your school. So, for example, if your school is on the coast, I don't know which it is, I think in Riga, relatively near the coast, then I'm sure that your local authority is collecting data on sea level change, for example. And there will be open data sets available that you can then start to encourage your students to look. So one of the jobs after the LTT will be for you to go away and try to identify tools and resources and local products, because in Romania, you're not near the sea, I think, no. Alex, no. So sea level change will not be as important, possibly for your students. They may be interested anyway, especially if there's flooding in the news or something like this. But it probably won't be sea level change that really connects with them, but possibly more drought or possibly severe storms or whatever. So I would encourage you and your teachers to already start to look at what data can you collect from your local surroundings, and identify where you can get it and how you can download it. And if you go to your local authority, the local council, the town hall, there'll be somebody in the town hall is responsible for climate change. I guarantee they are responsible for informing citizens about climate change. Talk to them about our project, make friends with them, and you never know what might happen. There may be all sorts of resources and information and things that allow you to start to create a local package of information and data you can use with GIS. Ultimately, that's the advantage. And the alternative also, another option will be to get the kids to go out and do the mapping and the collecting of information around the school. And that's something where we have the tools to be able to do that. So I think creating your own local ideas what are the key climate change effects in your school, around your school and in the region. And maybe later in the week, I'll ask you to do another presentation with just some brainstorming, just some ideas, as you as teachers have. What is it that we could study around our local school in terms of climate? Is it the length of the growing season? Is it the heat waves? Is it the flooding that occurs? Is it the high snowfall that cuts the road? What are the climate change things that are most important in your area? And then can you obtain information on them? And are there people in the region who are involved? So the local council and the local university, which should be places you go to, who is doing what in your local area? And I think you'll open a Pandora's box of tools and resources and things you didn't know existed. And in your local regions, your communes, there will be, because there's been a lot of money allocated to it, there will be somebody, as I said, who has the responsibility to educate and inform citizens. And they will love to hear from you because you are doing the job that they have to do. Because ultimately you're educating, informing the kids, and that's the purpose, but the kids can go home and educate and inform their parents. And that's how they will see the benefits. I hope they see the benefits anyway. So there's two concrete suggestions from the two presentations already, making those connections and looking for local data sources. We'll come back to those later in the project and identify ways of dealing with or doing things with that. In terms of you as teachers, how many of you are using GIS now? Be quite useful to know who are the expert, who are the people already doing it. I know Krina is one. Who else is, because I will do a presentation later in the week about the opportunities that GIS brings.
In Latvia,
I want to know if I'm speaking to the already knowledgeable, or am I starting from the beginning?
So in Latvia, Vita is using geography teacher.
GIS, she's using GIS and mapping tools. Okay. And working with Esri as well, working with ArcGIS online?
Krina is working with Esri.
Yeah, but in Latvia as well, working with Esri? Okay, so I suggest that a small email to your contact at your Esri to say we're just starting this new project and maybe you'd like to ask some advice and some help. Not straight away, but just to make connection to see what they have and what they're doing, because the different Esri companies I know have done quite a lot of interesting things in education. And the advantage of working with them is they are working in your language. And that's why it's important to communicate with your distributor. They're called distributors, distributing companies. Remember, their job is to sell software. So they do have a business, but they are tasked by Esri, the central office in America, to support education initiatives. And if you get any questions or any problems, come back to me, because we have connections with the main people working in Esri ultimately. So if there are any barriers and they're not interested to help you, let me know, and so on. Ultimately, we need to make sure you have enough licenses for GIS for every teacher to use. If you can't get them, we will provide them for you, because we have lots of licenses.
Krina told me that in our school we have 50 accounts.
Okay. Okay. Well, if you need more, let me know.
Okay.
And we can supply them. The advantage with us supplying these accounts is that we can keep all the projects that develop under one roof. Krina will know what I'm talking about. All the data sets, all the work of the students and the work of the teachers can all be put into one place, in the same place. So we have a measure of control, whereas if you are managing it, you have to be careful things are not deleted. And because they just disappear. Okay, so we have to discuss exactly how we deal with this later on, but we have enough accounts to offer every teacher and their class their own individual accounts if necessary, but that's something we'll face in the future. On the other hand, the teachers may wish to keep control of what the kids are doing and so on. So again, this is a decision we'll make later on. So it looks like there are some curriculum opportunities. What age groups are we going to work with?
We are a high school.
You want to work with in Romania?
We are a high school, so our students' age varies from 15 till 19. But we prefer not to involve the 19-year-old students because they are very busy with preparing for their baccalaureate.
Right,
so we'd rather work with students aged 15 till 18, maybe.
Okay. And how about you, Inguna? Is it the same?
Yes, in Latvia it's the same because in the class 12 they are really busy with projects in all specialized courses and individual projects. So, and with graduating, so as well it will be from 15 to 18 years.
Okay, I have a rather challenging question for you. Okay, we have two options. Let's see if you get the right one. We can develop a program that allows you to teach with GIS. Okay, teach with GIS, or a program that teaches about GIS. And so for the teachers, you have to be very clear what you're looking to achieve, given that we're dealing with the topic of climate change as well, and environmental issues. So teaching with GIS means taking GIS into your classroom and using it as a tool to teach with and for students to learn from. Teaching about GIS is more a technical perspective and may suit technical subjects. How does the GIS work? And so on. And I think it's very important that you understand the difference, because it would be best not to get confused down the road. Do you have any comments on this question? I haven't given you the answers. You have to think what it is you're trying to do. I don't know whether Ali or Zera would have a comment on this, because this is an absolutely fundamental question. And I would be concerned that we are confused about what we want to do in the future. And that's the purpose of the first LTT, is to really try to start to get you thinking about what you want to do with the GIS. Ali or Zara, do you have any thoughts? Or go?
I would like to translate the
Translate for Ali?
idea of, yes, Ali. She thinks he thinks that our main goal while writing this project proposal to sesimi kapatır mısın? To prepare some specific ideas against for climate change. So he says teaching with GIS against climate change will be the best and most important plan of our program.
Okay, thank you. That's very clear. That's also what I think we need to do. But if you're not sure, we need to talk about it this week. So again, that's a question I leave open. And we need to come back later in the week. And very crystal clear. So I agree with Ali. From my perspective, we need to make sure we need to make sure everybody's on the same page and aiming to do the same thing. Okay. Then the next issue we have is what is the knowledge of the teachers in terms of climate change? How up to date are the teachers that you're working with? For example, I don't have.
Sorry, the network is very bad. Can you repeat the last statement?
Yes, the teachers are going to be working and with their students on climate change. So how much knowledge do the teachers have about climate change is the question. Are they worried to teach about climate because they don't have enough knowledge? And we already saw in both presentations that climate is complex and it's multidisciplinary, which means it's even more complex. So the next stage would be to think of you as teachers, the teachers who are going to be involved, and what sort of confidence do you have in terms of understanding the challenge of climate?
I believe, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I believe that at least in my country, teachers have some knowledge about climate change, especially from the media.
Okay.
But
that's dangerous.
That's exactly what I was to say, because sometimes they're fueled by fake news, and it's quite risky. So the info they detain is not, let's say, academical.
Yeah, that's common. Most of the research that's been done shows that teachers get information about climate from the news and the media, and now increasingly from social media.
Exactly.
And when you consider that billions of dollars from various companies have been invested in creating fake news in terms of I think it's very difficult for teachers then to know what is good and what is not good. Again, this is a question I have because it's something we need to decide, and it's something we need to maybe make some materials that support the teachers in terms of their understanding of climate if they're not sure. And there are lots of lots of really good resources and tools already done that we can point teachers towards. But it's really important that the teachers feel confident in their own feelings about climate, but not to indoctrinate the students, basically to get the students to make their own minds up about what they believe and what they don't believe. So from my perspective, having the critical understanding, having a more critical look at things like social media and news and reports online and all the rest needs also part of the program.
Carl, may I speak? I think we can take the advantage of our course books of geography or social sciences in our countries, because the perspective of our course books will be the teacher's perspective in classrooms. So
there's a small problem with this, and that is that the course books are usually very out of date, and they are not they're not speaking to the kids. The kids are living in a multimedia world, a digital multimedia world where they access things through their smartphone. You know, but we can point teachers and the kids towards good and reliable information sources. That's also, I perceive that as part of the project as well, as trying to integrate GIS into the teaching about climate. So it's my perception. I see it, in the future, we will come against this and the teacher will say, but I don't know the answer. And I will turn around and say, nor do I. But I know where I can go to find information, and then I can make my mind up. And that is one of the key uses of GIS. I know where I can find information, where I can try to then make my own mind up. And that sort of a pedagogical approach, that the teacher is no longer the expert, but is actually also the learner with the students. And from my perspective, that's a really important point to make, that the teacher is learning alongside, because nobody knows the answer to climate change. And I think that for me, that is so important, that the teachers we're working with understand this, and that we don't know the answers, we don't have the solutions, but what we can do is we can educate our young people to be able to think for themselves. And maybe some of those modelers that you in Guna that you work with, some of those people will go on and solve the conundrum when they become very clever future scientists and so on. And, you know, that's actually all we can do, is open the door and allow them to walk through. And so the way we use the technology and the guests open those doors to young people is what we need to think about. And so we'll talk about methodologies and so on, perhaps later in the project or later this week.
For instance, in Romania, we have many NGOs that help us, at least help us, you know, teachers and students. For instance, there's they're called some like a recycling map. So we as teachers also learn about recycling, and we learn together with our students. And we go through the challenges proposed by this NGO. And then we get the certificate. It's something like a game. And I believe that NGOs do a great job in this.
Yeah, I agree. I think NGOs, but don't forget the local authorities, local government, because they've got the task to solve the problem. You know, if somebody's losing their home because the sea level is rising, you know, as is the case in some parts of Europe, then it's the local council, the local authorities who are dealing with the issue on the ground, you know, and making those connections there. You know, that's where our taxes go anyway. So they're collecting the data based on our taxes. So we should have access to that data, and you should be able to use that data with your students. Does anyone else want to say anything more this evening? Thank you. And yes, you're right. There's something called the Foster program, which my association has been right of it. right at the heart of. We've been campaigning for open data for more than 20 years. And we had a project talking about data literacy. And later, probably on Thursday, I will share the materials with you. And they're teacher training materials, and it's really the very basic stuff about data. Because often you start talking about data and numbers, and the teachers put their head in their hands and they say, that's not me. I'm an economist. No, economists love data, but I'm a geographer, I'm a biologist or whatever. And so we've just finished a project that introduces the issue of data in the high school classroom, and with some really simple activities with kids and with students. So we will introduce that to you later on in the week as something you can start to look at and see if anything is useful for you. We didn't have Romania. Yes, we did have Romania as a partner, I think, but we didn't have Latvia as a partner. But the materials are in English, so you'll be able to access them, and they're downloadable and they're open and so on. So thank you, Talis. I think you made a very good point there about the open data. Your problem will be that there is too much open data. And your problem will be choosing the right things, which is why I'm getting you to focus locally. So I'm going to ask you later in the week to create one PowerPoint slide for your school. So one for each school, or one for each class, if you like, to share. What is the local data that you found? What is the main topic that that your school is mostly interested in? You know, sea level change, warming, droughts, floods, melting glaciers because you can't go skiing anymore, or whatever. What are the main challenges of climate change? You know, maybe the forests are dying, or the crop yields are too low, or whatever. So what are the main challenges? So just 2 or 3 bullets. And then what data do you think you're going to need? Or what data did you find? So it's really perhaps just half an hour to follow up, and probably we'll look at that on Friday to make it interactive. Tomorrow we're going to look at the LMS. So I also ask you, I've sent everybody LMS link to see if you can access the LMS. If not, we need to sort out the problems.
I already did that. Dragos helped me. We already had the counts, so Dragos is the man.
So inside the LMS, you'll find already some pictures and some things. So we'll look at. Oh, congratulations. So I'm going to show you the structure of the LMS tomorrow, and we're going to talk about the things that you can do. The LMS I made is for the project, but it's what they call a sandpit. It's like you put the babies in the sand and let them play with the sand. So you can't make anything wrong. I saw one person already deleted a picture of mine. So I've reinstated a picture. So don't worry about it. You can't do any harm. So please just explore and experiment. That's what this is all about. And we will let you, we will look at the principles of the use of an LMS. Probably the best design for your students and for you, because ultimately the idea is to create an LMS for you on the climate change and so on. But you may then want to take the ideas to your own school. And if your school uses Moodle, you can even lift the whole of what we create into your own Moodle afterwards. You can zip it up and unzip it inside your Moodle later on. So the introduction to what an LMS is and what I can do with an LMS will be tomorrow. So we had 1 hour and 10 minutes. We're over time. It's been a pleasure seeing you all.
I didn't get that. Could you?
And we'll see you tomorrow evening. Arrivederci and goodbye. Goodbye in Latvian, but it's been lovely to see you. I've taken some pictures. I will put them again in the folder on Google Drive, the pictures from yesterday and the pictures from today. So good night, everybody. Enjoy your evening. I'm going to cook supper now. I'm 3 hours different to Turkey, I think. So here it's 6 o'clock, so it's food time.
Oh.
Good night, everyone. Take care.
Good night. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye. Good night.